all I thought about as a kid personally was winning championships. That's all I cared about. Now everybody's going to value things differently, which is fine. I'm just telling you how I value mine. If I'm Braun, you got to figure out a way to win. It's not about narrative. You want to win championships. You just got to figure it out. All right, Doug, what was your reaction to Kobe's comments?
I think that's Kobe letting us in on two things. One, it's admitting, hey, I have flaws. Okay, I am not perfect, but all of my imperfections, all of my flaws were because I was simply driven to win. Like, I'm sorry, not sorry, if you will, right? Sorry that I could have been seen as a bad teammate. Sorry that I could have played too long. Sorry that I drove Dwight Howard out of L.A., that I didn't really want him, but I didn't think he had what it took to be a winner. Everything I did was based upon winning. The second part is, I think he looks at LeBron and says, man, LeBron, it feels like he's going after the scoring title. It feels like he's going after some other stuff and trying to. LeBron's going to set almost every record outside the assist record. He can hold every record. And what Kobe's saying is, like, look, end of the day, the rings are the argument. That's what I would go after. And it's not a terrible argument to be made. I never thought Kobe was in the Jordan discussion. I didn't. He's probably the second best two guard of modern day basketball, but there's just too much of there's a seismic gap between him and Michael Jordan. But remember, when he won his fifth title, that conversation started. And that's what Kobe's saying. Like, look, you get to 5 titles, they'll start to talk about you on a much more even basis with Michael Jordan.
And that's why he's jealous of LeBron, because LeBron didn't have to get to 5 titles for the discussion to start. It started with the 3rd title. And listen, Kobe could never be considered the greatest player ever because Kobe's a worse version of a player we've seen. He's just a slightly worse version of Michael Jordan. Period, point blank. Like, the reason LeBron can be considered the greatest player ever is we've never quite seen someone like LeBron. LeBron isn't trying to be Jordan like Kobe was. LeBron is more Magic, but he's not trying to be Magic. Magic didn't score or defend at near the level LeBron did. But Kobe, you can say this is Kobe's example of on a job interview. You know, what's your biggest weakness? I'm too hard of a worker, I suppose. But it's totally disingenuous, and it's historically inaccurate. A guy that only cares about winning championships makes it work with Shaq. Because the year he left you, he was second in the MVP, and 2 years after he left you, he won a championship. And 3 years after he left you, you demanded a trade because your team was such trash without it. Period, point blank. A guy that only cares about winning championships recognizes that he is closer to the end than the beginning and sees if he can get Orlando Magic Dwight Howard back. Dwight Howard, who was called soft and weak, even though the year he was with the Lakers led the league in rebounding with a torn-up shoulder. Like, so the idea that Kobe wanted to win on Kobe's terms, with Kobe getting the credit. That is
listen, LeBron wants to win on LeBron's terms. He does. He wants to win his way. He wants the guys spaced out. They all want the roster how they want the roster. They all kind of do the same thing.
The difference is LeBron has never actively run out a quality teammate. Kyrie Irving left. LeBron tried to keep him, and that's the only example of a player.
Hold on. When did he try and keep him? He never actively or inactively or anything tried to keep him.
That's not true.
He didn't. Did he call him? Did he get on a plane? Did he go see him?
He called the owner.
No. Not call the owner. When somebody says, when you're having a relationship with your wife, if your wife says, hey, I want out. Do you go through the lawyer or you go to your wife and say, can we work this thing out?
That would be an interesting analogy if it fit. Kyrie can't leave on his own. Your wife can leave on her own. You go to the only person who has the power to actually move the guy. But the idea that Kobe can speak about how to win or how to be a good teammate or how to be a good competitor and teach that to LeBron is laughable. It's laughable.
Well, it's also laughable for you to think that Kobe somehow has this insecurity about LeBron James. I'm not saying Kobe is flawless. I don't put Kobe on the plane with Michael Jordan, and I frankly don't put him on the plane with LeBron James. I would agree with you. But if you think that Kobe Bryant is somehow sitting there in Newport Coast and he's insecure about LeBron James creeping up on his legacy, we know a lot of things about Kobe Bryant. The one thing we know that he is not is insecure. Well, he is confident to a fault.
Maybe insecure is the wrong word. Jealous, then.
But jealous is a code word for insecurity.
Kobe wanted the debate to be Kobe versus Jordan. The debate Kobe got was Kobe versus Duncan. And LeBron's getting the Kobe versus Jordan, or the LeBron versus Jordan debate. Hold on, just real quick. There's a reason why Kobe is now all of a sudden talking like this. There's a reason he sent a tweet that, forget the fact that it was NBA-wise, historically inaccurate about who his teams went through and who they didn't.
You mean why now?
Oh, he's doing it now because the discussion reached a peak volume about 3 weeks ago. So he had to lay in the weeds. He couldn't say it when LeBron was hitting game winners against Toronto. He couldn't say it when LeBron carried him to the Eastern Conference Championship with 81 points in the final 2 games against Boston. But now all of a sudden there's an opening. So he goes on Alex Kennedy's podcast, he does Howard Beck's interview, and he sends out these tweets because he is trying to reinsert himself in this conversation. Doug, the same reason he sent the tweet. Everyone was debating Michael versus LeBron, and Kobe sends a tweet. Man, hey, let's stop debating. Enjoy my 6. Nobody was talking, or enjoy my 5. Nobody was talking about your 5, bro. Like, you're not in this discussion. And if you think that doesn't bother him, I think you're crazy.
I think if there's something that bothers him, it's that he never. And look, it bothers all basketball fans, right? We never got a chance to see Kobe versus LeBron, right? We'd never gotten to see Brady versus Aaron Rodgers in a Super Bowl, and we had never got to see Kobe versus LeBron. We never got to see the 2 best players at that point in time. And now we get to see Durant, and Durant is, in many ways, living the dream of Kobe Bryant. That, I think, would be fair. But I do think that we quickly forget. I think that's one of the amazing things about sports fans is, look, I grew up in Los Angeles, and if you polled Laker fans right now, they would tell you Kobe's my favorite Laker. Like, dude, Kobe wasn't the best Laker of all time, no matter what even Magic Johnson said. Magic was magical, right, to be cliche. But it's what have you done lately? And the fact is, there was a discussion, however accurate, however valid, about him being in the Jordan discussion when he won his 5th. His body let down, his dream team never came together, and they never played LeBron in the playoffs and in the finals. And I do think that his 5 rings, and he is somebody who historically and in current day NBA players, they all idolize. So I don't think it's a crazy discussion to put him in that mix.
All rings are not created equal. And his first ring, he averaged 16 points on 36% shooting. And he had the best player in the world next to him.
No question.
His second ring, he had the best player in the world next to him. And his third ring, he had the best player in the world next to him. Now, by the third ring, he was one of the 5 best players in the world. He was excellent that year. And there's no doubt about that. But also, why didn't they get a 4th ring with Shaq? What happened in that Detroit series? Shot 17% from 3 and 38% from the field. He would have found a way to win, though. Even though they couldn't overcome the loss of Karl Malone that year, I guess.
Karl Malone, Rick Fox,
Kobe,
both got hurt.
Yeah, right. But you had Shaq, who was still Shaq, and you had Kobe, who at that point in time thought he was the best player in the world and got outplayed in that series by Rip Hamilton. Like, Kobe doesn't get to recreate this history. Kobe doesn't get to tweet out, we had to play the Spurs every year. Well, actually, Kobe, after Shaq left, you beat the Spurs once. That was before Kawhi got there when their second best player was Michael Finley. You don't get to do this thing where, we never got to play LeBron in the finals. Well, why didn't you? LeBron's worst moment, losing to the Mavs in 6. That Mavs team swept you in 4. The next year, when LeBron beat the Thunder in 5, those Thunder beat you in 5. Like, you could have played LeBron. Plenty of opportunities to play LeBron. You didn't get beat by the Spurs to not go play LeBron.
But hold on. Now, he did play the Celtics twice, okay? Mm-hmm. Both were super teams. Mm-hmm. One he lost in 6, and one he beat in 7.
And then LeBron beat those Celtics teams both years in Miami and ended their
correct
run.
when he had his own super team. So they were stars crossing in the night. Like, look, you can recreate it all you want. Kobe Bryant, and I thought he was a little bit overrated when he was winning his 5th title, and the last contract that Jim Buss got him ultimately set this franchise back for years. But Kobe, for most basketball historians, look at him as a top 10 player.
He's the 8th greatest player ever. I totally agree with that.
So it wasn't, and look, your ratings of the 8th greatest player. I mean, there's all this fluidity of it. Like, let's not diminish who he was. And I think, honestly, if you look at the legitimacy of his tweet where he said, enjoy Mike's 6 and my 5 and LeBron's 3, that's exactly what he's saying. He's like, look.
But no one was talking about it. People, he inserted it, and no one was talking about Kobe. Okay? And this is why, listen, I do think he's one of the 10 greatest players ever. I think I know you think my rankings are too exact, but shooting guards, MJ, West, Kobe. And if you want to throw West out because it's too long ago, fine. Like, there is no doubt that he is one of the greatest players ever.
Right.
cannot get over the fact that a guy that he thinks he wants it more than in LeBron, because it looks more effortless to LeBron, is involved in the debate. All he ever wanted was to be in the MJ debate. And he wasn't good enough. There's no shame in that. There's only been one guy ever good enough. He wasn't good enough.
I also think, though, that there's a generation of players, okay? And I've frankly come from this generation to which when the game was on the line, they wanted the ball, okay? And they didn't. And look, his flaw was the same flaw of Jordan, only Jordan learned earlier and better to pass the ball when he was double teamed, but that they would want the ball and they'd want to guard the ball. And LeBron James, for that generation, for most people, has at times been more willing to facilitate, more willing to allow his teammates to guard the ball in a big situation.
And that's a great argument if it's not for the fact that in the regular season, LeBron's got more buzzer beaters. In the playoffs, LeBron's got more buzzer beaters. He's got more game winners within the last 5 seconds.
All right.